Are you stressed out about giving the perfect gift? Maybe you're totally overwhelmed by expectations, unsure about what's meaningful, and worried about overspending. If this is the case, you are certainly not alone. Gift giving can be a super joyful and meaningful way to connect, but it's also loaded with a ton of pressures, many of them from outside influences you may or may not be super aware of. So in this episode, we're going to unpack the pressures and influences that shape our gift-giving habits, how to clarify your own personal and family values so that you can give more mindfully, simple exercises to help you assess the resources that you actually have available, like time, money, and emotional energy, and finally, a few creative and meaningful approaches to gifting that align with what really matters to you and yours. So by the end of this episode, you will feel empowered to make gifting a thoughtful and stress-free process. So let's get started. Welcome to Ponder and Practice. If you're here looking for answers, I hate to say you're in the wrong place. Hey there, I'm Catherine, and it's my hope that you have more questions than answers by the end of this episode. I'm here to help ignite your curiosity and facilitate honest and nuanced conversations so that you can more thoughtfully navigate all of the complexities of life. Let's talk about some of the pressures associated with gift giving. It's not just about choosing a nice gift, though that is certainly part of the process. You are also contending with a ton of invisible expectations. This can show up in a number of ways, both known and unknown. Personally, I want to talk about this time of year because I always go through the same cycle of wanting to give all kinds of things to all kinds of people and then having to bring myself back down to earth and recognizing, no, you don't need to do these things. And part of it is just for generosity. I want to be able to share with folks, but also there is this internalized pressure of, am I giving enough? Am I spending enough money on people? Am I showing enough generosity? This kind of thing. A few other ways that this pressure can show up is through family dynamics. So some families, they really like to outdo each other every year. Maybe your family has an unspoken rule about giving multiple gifts to each person, or maybe you all stick to really high value items. If you have the resources, I'm super jealous, and I hope that you have a lovely holiday season. Most of us are not in that bucket. And while traditions can be super meaningful, they sometimes morph into obligations that can be really heavy to carry throughout this time of year. In our family, we are sort of scattered across the country, and we have 5 kids who are now all transitioned into adulthood. And so, of course, as families grow and change, there's going to be some adjustments to gift giving, and this is appropriate and makes a lot of sense. And some of that pressure around gift giving and family dynamics can come from the fact that sort of this expectation that things should be the same always, and that's just not the case. Lives change, people grow up, relationships shift. This is all normal and part of the regular routine of life. So for us, when the kids were younger, there was much more of a focus on things like toys and games and extras and fun. Now that they're young adults and are maybe struggling to afford some things, we focus on those kinds of things for their gifts. The next pressure to be aware of and think about is social pressure. And this is things like Secret Santa exchanges or showing up to a party with a gift that maybe feels a little bit too small, like not quite enough. And this is where this internal voice can start to kick in for a lot of folks as well. A lot of social circles, can unintentionally add to the pressure to spend or to impress. I always think of the Office episode when they have Secret Santa and Michael Scott brings an iPod and everyone's like, wait a minute, what? This is way above the gift cap, but he's like, I spent the most money, so I care the most. I also used to work at an old job where we got into the habit of exchanging gifts for birthdays and the holidays. And while I super appreciated these gestures and it was really sweet, it was also a really annoying financial and mental obligation to carry at times. Next, there is the maybe obvious and maybe less obvious marketing and cultural influences. Brands spend billions of dollars to convince us that the size or price of a gift equals the love or care that we're showing. So like you might think about car commercials with the giant red bows on top, or jewelry commercials with huge gems that show perfectly curated and romantic relationships. Most of us are not there. We cannot necessarily afford to gift a car or boxes of diamonds, but these ads plant the ideas that grand gestures are the ultimate standard. Social media certainly amplifies this in a way that is so super insidious because it's harder to spot sometimes on social media. Influencers post lavish gift guides, they have perfectly curated and manicured homes, they showcase perfectly wrapped presents, and it looks like everyone else is really effortlessly able to go above and beyond. As a side note, if you haven't seen Hannah Alonso's Influencer Insanity series, this is a great thing to watch if you're not sure how maybe social media might be influencing you or stressing you out or contributing to how you think that you need to go about doing holidays. So, with all that in mind, the next thing would be to clarify your personal and even family and community values. There are a ton of pressures to contend with, as we've seen. And to counteract these pressures, if you can get super clear about what you value and what your family and friends value and your community values, you can really circumvent that in a big way. Gift giving doesn't have to be about impressing others. It really can be about being more intentional, about reflecting what's meaningful. So first things first, what do you value? Ask yourself this question. What do I value about the holidays? Do I really prefer to spend time with family? Is this about the creating joyful experiences, or is there something else altogether? Write down your priorities and let them guide your gift choices. As a bonus tip, put this on a sticky note, put it on your computer, put it in your day planner, even put it in your wallet for when you're out there, out and about, choosing gifts throughout the season to really help to keep yourself on track. The next thing would be to communicate with others. You don't live in a vacuum. You have family, you have friends, you have community. And so talk with them. Open this conversation if this is something that you're really trying to adjust and come to terms with and be more intentional about. If gifting feels overwhelming, you can have a really honest conversation with friends and family, hopefully. You might want to suggest alternatives like Secret Santa, having spending caps, sticking to handmade gifts, cards, notes, etc. Now, like I said, our family is spread all over the country, and so my favorite thing is to get photos from folks. I love seeing what folks have been doing with their year and being able to connect with them in that way. So after having done all of that work, right, we've talked about pressures, we've talked about figuring out your values and your community's values and sort of starting to open these kinds of conversations. The next step is to really assess what your resources are. And you have to be honest about this for this to be effective. How much time do you have? How much money do you have? How much emotional energy do you have? How much mental bandwidth can you devote to gifting throughout the holiday season? So let's talk through a few exercises to really concretize this and make sense of it as you go. One is reflective journaling. I love journaling. I know it's not for everyone, but it can be super helpful, even if you just have a piece of printer paper just to jot some ideas down and thoughts down to really kind of understand where your head is at. So take a few moments, ask yourself, how do I feel when I think about gift giving? Am I excited? Am I overwhelmed? Does it change when I think about giving to different people? Do I feel differently when I think about giving to my spouse or my kids than I do when I think about giving to extended family or friends or coworkers or this kind of a thing? You can ask yourself, how have you been feeling? Are you feeling drained or energized by what's going on in your life lately? Work, social interactions, home life, all of these things contribute. Then you can think about what would make this season more enjoyable. What would make this a better holiday season for me? If I could do anything in the world to make this work better for me, what would that include? What would that entail? And then on the other side, if there are things that I could cut out, what would I want to get rid of? Are there traditions, events, or commitments that I'm super dreading? And how can I renegotiate these? The next thing that you might want to give a try is energy mapping, or really just kind of tracking where you're at day to day. So you can make a simple chart of your activities. If you have a day planner, you can write it down in there. And for each one, just make a note if this is replenishing or draining with a plus or a minus sign. You can do this, like when you do sort of this reflective journaling, just kind of thinking back through the last few days. Ideally, you want to go through this for a couple of different days of the week to help you see what is helping and what's not so helpful. For example, going to a holiday party might be super draining, but being at home, having some eggnog, baking cookies with the family might be super replenishing and rejuvenating for you. So all of this has helped you to recognize what's really within your capacity. If you have a bunch of things coming up that you know are going to be minus signs, you probably want to readjust and renegotiate some of them, drop them off the calendar. Seeing this laid out in black and white can be a super useful tool to help you make the needed adjustments. To this end, another way to do this is each evening, rate your emotional state from 1, being exhausted, to 10, super energized, feeling good, want to do this day all over again. Write a quick note about what has influenced your score. What was exciting about it? What was draining about it? Do this for at least a week and see what kinds of patterns emerge. This helps you to show you where you might need to set some boundaries, cut some things out, add some things in, etc. Speaking of boundaries, it's also super helpful this time of year to figure out where are the places that you do need to set some boundaries and how do you do that in a way that is aligned with who you are and what your relationships are. I am really pro developing a script in advance for those boundaries that can be super difficult to set. With family that tends to be pretty pushy, or friends that you feel like are super pushy. For instance, you might want to say something like, I'd love to participate in this gift exchange, but I'm really trying to simplify this year, so I'm going to have to sit this one out. But thank you so much. Or if you are trying to get out of invitations and events, saying something like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the invite. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it this time, but I'll look forward to seeing you the next time around. And so finally, when we're talking about resources, we're also talking about money. Finances are a part of this. Finances are often a part of gifting, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And we also need to be super honest with ourselves about what we do actually have available when we're gifting. So write down a holiday budget, black and white, on paper, pencil, pen, whatever, but write it down. Allocate portions of what your budget is to recipients or events. Helping to see these numbers in black and white can be super helpful to avoid overspending. As a bonus, put this on that same piece of paper that you put your priorities on. Put it on your computer for when you are browsing online. Put it in your wallet for when you are shopping for gifts in the real world. And really use that to help keep you accountable throughout the season and on track. So, by now, you have done a ton of different work. You have identified your values, you have assessed your resources, you are aware of the pressures that are out there trying to get you to overextend. And so, with all of that, let's explore some meaningful ways to give. Now, this is not a comprehensive list. The things here are not going to work for everyone. I'm totally aware of that. There are a ton of resources out there. And also, this is a really good place to get creative. Think about things that are out of the box. What are things that you would like, oh man, I wish I could do that? Well, can you? Does that make sense? Will it work with your relationships and your values and your community? Then go give it a try. Get creative this season. So one thing that I really like to do is prioritizing experiences over things. Doing things like tickets to a concert or to a cooking class or a planned outing. These are really lovely because they help to create memories that last way longer than material gifts. I still remember going to a concert we gifted to my mom a number of years ago. I don't even remember when it was, but I remember going and the fun of being able to do that with her. Meanwhile, last year my husband gave me tickets to a comedy show that I've been wanting to see. It was great. We still talk about it. Lovely, lovely. Better than anything that he could have given me that was a physical thing. Something else that's really lovely are personalized or handmade gifts. So writing a letter, making a scrapbook, making an album. These kinds of gifts really are super thoughtful and take more effort than I always think that they will take. And so, and this is something to assess. Do I have the mental and emotional energy to do a handmade gift, or do I just need to put money into it and call it a day? Last year, I was able to make a family photo album with pictures that had been shared at our group text thread. Like I said, our family sort of scattered around the country, and so that was a really special surprise and keepsake for the family to have last year, at least I thought. You could also do something like charitable gifting, donating to a cause in someone's name that they care about. And so that can also be a really nice way to gift sort of a less material thing. Of course, I'm not here to kind of poo-poo material items. It's so much fun to receive a physical thing. And so if that is within something that you like to do and your family's values and all of this, go for it. Absolutely. The whole point of this is really drilling down and figuring out how to make the holidays and the gift giving season work for you, as opposed to being stressed out and frantic and, oh my gosh, I got to give 10 things to every person on my list. Do you? Maybe you do, and that's awesome. And maybe you don't, and you can start to cut back. So let's recap. We have identified some of the pressures that come with gift giving. We have worked to really clarify some personal and family values, and then use some simple exercises to really assess the resources that you have available to you this season. Let all of these things guide your choices towards meaningful and stress-free gifting. This is an iterative process like everything else that I talk about here on Ponder and Practice. And so it's going to change. It's going to morph and adjust. And you may do one thing and feel it and think, oh gosh, that was really great. That went really well. I'm so glad I changed this gift. Or you may change something or try to have a conversation and it doesn't go so well. This is all par for the course. It's okay. But give it a go and see what is worth adjusting this holiday season when it comes to your gifting. I challenge you to rethink one gift, just one thing. Maybe there's something on your list and it's like one extra thing. Really sit down and think, do I need to go for that? If nothing else, put a pause button before you add it to your cart and have it shipped to you. Leave it in the store, go walk around somewhere else, come back, see if it's still worth getting. Maybe you want to replace that physical item with an experience, or maybe you want to really simplify the family's exchange. On the other hand of things, maybe you do have a little bit of extra resource this season and you really want to go above and beyond. That's also great and super exciting. So, whatever works for you, I just encourage you to think about it, challenge what you have done in the past to see what improvements that you might be able to make the holiday season a little bit more relaxed, a little bit easier for yourself and for your family and friends. At any rate, feel free to share your ideas in the comments section. Let me know what are some favorite ways that you like to gift and make this holiday as stress-free as possible. And thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, and then check out our next episode. Take care. Bye.